Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Extreme Football League Newsroom.com is proud to present its reigning, its defending, its most hated podcast, the Unhinged Podcast. If you ain't down with that, I got 2 words for you. Subscribe and like. Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jay Dash, and welcome to another episode of Unhinged Podcast. We had a request or two for the old intro, so why the heck not? Just do that for shits and giggles. It's been maybe 2 weeks since we dropped the last podcast. I do apologize. I have personal issues I cannot leave the city of Jacksonville for at the moment until it's resolved. It's more of a family issue than anything else. So I won't be joining Carlos in DC next week for the kickoff of the 2020 season, but more of that will be later in the show where we give away 2 tickets to a winner of the contest of our ticket giveaway. But no further ado, Carlos, rest of the guy, do what we got to do best.
How you guys doing today? It's your part man, part machine, all podcaster, Carlos, aka the wrestling movie guy. And it has been a while since we have been here. It was nice to hear that throwback. For a while, though, I actually thought that people didn't like it. Goes to show what the hell I know.
Go figure,
Go figure. Before we get the show started, as always, we want to say thank you to 503 Sports for supporting us and sponsoring us. If you want some old school kick-ass XFL gear from 2001, you know where to go. Go check out 503 Sports and make sure that if you want to get 10% off, you type in Unhinged at the checkout line. And we'd also like to thank the XFL itself, the grand, glorious entity owned by Vince McMahon, for hooking us up with these tickets to give away. And most of all, we thank you guys for listening. So what are we getting into first today?
Well, unfortunately, usually when you get ready for a football season, you want to get excited, you want to get ecstatic, you want to see what can happen, predictions, some debates, but unfortunately, last week, a tragedy struck the sports world where 5-time NBA champion Kobe Bryant lost his life with 8 other individuals on the aircraft, including his daughter, Gianna. This I want to pay for the first segment of our show today is look back at not really the career, but the individual that Kobe Bryant is. I know a lot of us out there in the sports world, people who are mourning his loss over the last couple of days, were fans of him and also despise him. Ladies and gentlemen, these 2 individuals on this podcast, me and Carlos, we despised Kobe with a passion when he played in the NBA. I was a Celtics fan. Celtics do not cheer for Lakers.
And I'm a Wizards fan, and everybody does better than the Wizards, so I pretty much hated everyone, especially Kobe.
But one thing do you have to give credit for Kobe is that he set a standard to athletes in any sport of how to compete each and every day on your craft to be the best you can be. He basically inspired the modern-day NBA athletes or the modern-day football players, including the players that are playing the XFL in a couple of weeks. They looked up to Kobe. Kobe was their idol. Kobe Bryant was that character off of that sitcom that you watched 12 seasons off of. But for us men for us sports fans, not men, even ladies, I'm not going to leave you guys out, Kobe Bryant was the nemesis to some of us. He was Dr. Doom. He was Dr. Evil. He was Darth Vader of what the sports world he was. And also, he was the hero. But looking back at him as a person who despised him, and I'm not going to touch back on his history of what happened to Colorado. That's another subject for another day. You got to look at what he did since he got that accusation happened. He matured as an adult, had kids, and became, from what I've seen, a very good, loving father. And he pretty much created an empire, or starting to create a company and an empire with ESPN and his own Mamba enterprise, and started to live the life after the NBA. And from what I've seen from all the articles and stories from what he was, inspiring to do, he was getting into the coaching realm for his daughters. And I know we shouldn't be, take our solemn against Hollywood superstars, but you have to, my heart sunk when I found out that his daughter was in the aircraft with them, and along with the other three young kids who were part of the same Mamba basketball team, also lost their life when the helicopter crashed in California on Sunday morning. And when I got the text message from a buddy around 1 o'clock saying Kobe Bryant was killed, I thought it was one of those fake Facebook posts of fake deaths that we see constantly from multiple like Hollywood superstars. Even though that I wasn't a Laker fan, I appreciated Kobe. I respected the damn man. His some of his games are going to be highlighted in history from years to come, way past when me and you, the listeners out there, are long and gone from the face of this earth as well. He is a symbol that will live on forever in the NBA. He's a Hall of Famer. His jersey's mostly going to be retired in every single NBA arena, both of them probably. There is now a petition of him being the logo of the NBA, which I think that's a little bit far-fetched, but there is one. Kobe Bryant may not have been the greatest personality or athlete to ever walk on the NBA court, but one thing for sure, he did inspire a whole generation of athletes that are currently playing in the professional sports from the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. And when his passing happened, you saw the sports world get shooken. And that tells you how gravity for him as an athlete, as an icon, as that superhero or villain, no matter way you look at him, of how big he was as an individual in our modern day sports life. I can go on forever about him, but Carlos, what's your 2 cents about Kobe Bryant and the 9 souls that were lost on Sunday?
Man, it really was quite shocking when I found out. I'd woken up, it was my day off, so I'd slept in. My friends had come over because we were going to watch the Royal Rumble. So, I wake up, I look at my phone, and I see Kobe Bryant dies in a helicopter crash. You actually texted me, and I looked at that, and he's like, I can't believe what happened to Kobe. I was like, what? He got in trouble for income tax or some accusation or something, or he's getting blackmailed? What's going on? Is there a scandal? The furthest thing from my mind was a helicopter crash. And when something like that happens, you right away kind of get, I don't know if nostalgic is the word for it, but you kind of go back in your mind as to what this guy did. For me, I have such a strange history with the guy since I was a kid, because I remember when the 76ers were playing them in the NBA Finals back in, I believe, 2000, 2001. And
the Iverson step over.
Yep, that one. I was actually happy. As a kid, I didn't really have all my loyalties down yet. You love a billion teams when you're in like elementary/middle school. But as you get older, you start to get more loyalty. And that's, around the time I became a Wizards fan. So I couldn't possibly like the Lakers. They were the empire. They were essentially what the Patriots are now. You just couldn't stand to like them. But as I got older, I still didn't like the Lakers, but you had to give the man his respect. He would outwork everyone. He would be that guy that would be the first one on the court to practice and the last one to leave. He would shoot for about 45 minutes to an hour before an actual game. Like, most people would be pretty damn tired, but with him, he would just keep going, and he would crush you. And I believe it was Jay Williams just did an interview recently where he said that that moment where he hung out with them before the game started completely changed his life, because what he took from that was that he would outwork anyone. That was his Mamba mindset. I am going to outwork you more than anybody else. No one will be able to touch what I can do. And that was his mindset throughout his whole entire career. I mean, he got 5 rings. He played for about 20 years. He went to 18 All-Star games. He averaged 25 points per game and shot a 55 true shooting percentage through his career. Like, that's insane. Absolutely insane. Jordan is definitely number one. And in no discernible order, this has always been my top 5 players of all time. Of course, you got Jordan number 1, Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kobe. That's the Mount Rushmore. The rest, you can debate, as long as you want. But for me, that's the top 5. I think that probably my favorite game that I ever saw him play, it wasn't a championship game. It wasn't early in his career. It was his very last game. that game more than any other sticks out in my mind because this was his last game. You know, he's about to retire. What's the NBA going to look like without him? Well, he made sure to leave his imprint on the game by scoring 60 points. 60 points on 50 shots. He just walked in there and said to the rest of the team, step the hell back. This is mine. I'm going out on my terms. And he did. And he's going to be missed. And like you said, there are people that could bring up what happened in Colorado and whatnot. And, you know, they have the right to do that. But at the same time, you got to think about decency. Now is not the time to bring that up.
Or you have people like that.
And they're doing that for attention.
Yeah,
they're doing that for attention. It's annoying as all hell. It's dirty. You got to wait a while before you can start doing that. It's like when Bill Maher, you know, after 9/11 started bringing up how, like, you know, it was our fault that we created Al-Qaeda. You know, you're not wrong, but it ain't the time. You're not just going to say that a few days after 9/11 happens. You got to give time, you know. So pay your respects to this man. And besides, he became a better human being after everything that happened. He created academies for all kids, for, you know, women's schools and men's schools. He was doing a lot of good stuff for the LA Sparks. I believe that's the team in Los Angeles for the WNBA. I mean, he just was a great philanthropist. He was a great father. And there's not much else that you could say. Even bigger than his career is what a great family man he was. And that should be his legacy.
I look at it this way, except for digging up the guy's past and trying to bury him for what he did 16 years ago. Think of the Vanessa Bryant, now widow of Kobe, the wife of Kobe Bryant. Think of what she has to go through now, raising 3 kids, losing a daughter, and losing a husband on the same day. You gotta see, you guys send support, and apparently, from what I've been reading, she's doing a very good job. But it's going to take a long time for her. I know the city of LA has come together. I know you don't want to compare tragedies to tragedies, but the city of LA came together for what happened to Kobe, and that's that's pretty. If you lived in a city that experienced a tragedy, you can almost compare it to maybe September 11th, where when that struck, the whole nation came together. The news of Kobe Bryant that happened, the whole city of LA came together, and that's a good sign. And even though in his passing, he
in
still,
the grand scheme of things,
in his passing, his final will happened. LA came together, so. Kobe Bryant leaves us at the age of 41 on, what was it, the 23rd of last Sunday? I think it was the 23rd or the 24th, Sunday morning, 10:58 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Rest in peace, Mamba.
It was actually the 26th.
26?
Yeah.
Why I think today's Sunday. Anyways.
And real quick, just so nobody gets it twisted, when we're bringing up 9/11, we're not talking about like they're actually comparable, because I can feel it. I can feel somebody sending a tweet saying, "How dare you compare that?" No, we know. We're just talking about the collectiveness. It feels like everybody in the world has like kind of brought hands together, because you've seen people that are tennis players, rugby players, even pool players, you know, snooker guys that you'll see on ESPN England, you know, Sky Sports. They're all wearing Kobe Bryant stuff. Everybody's been affected by this in some form or another, just in that context. So please don't come at us with a bunch of why you comparing this that.
We'll have people that do that, and they usually come and go comment on our anchor site, or go on our YouTube site, or go to xflnewsroom.com. And they'll, act like they're smart asses, and, they'll post comments like, "Oh, you did this, you're comparing these two." Then they block us on Twitter, so we don't have a chance to reply back to their comments. So it happens.
Keyboard warriors.
It happens all the time. We get the usual blocked messages on Twitter. It's like, "Oh, it's the same guy who blocked us, who's trying to talk trash." Well, anyways, rest in peace, Mamba. We'll see you soon. Hopefully not too soon. But give Jesus a couple good games up there. And crap, there's some other NBA legends up there as well right now. So I guarantee they'll be hooping it up right now. But Kobe leaves us for age of 41, tragically lost. But as sports fans, we have to move on.
So, what's up next? Segment number 2. A little over under, perhaps.
Yeah, segment number 2. I know we can't really segue into for the tribute to Kobe Bryant to the XFL, but hey,
it's kind of hard.
It's kind of hard, but I wanted to do a little, a little Kobe Bryant tribute to a guy who was that magnitude of an athlete in our time, and pretty much our prime, our childhood. Kobe was there. But over unders in the XFL, Caesar Entertainment, also known as Caesar's Palace, released over unders of all 8 XFL teams. Some of them are pretty ridiculous. Some of them are kind of, lowballing, and others are just quite interesting. But that's what you get when you have Vegas and you have betting lines. You'll have certain, certain games, certain matchups, certain teams getting a little favored or not favored enough. For example, at 7.5 over-unders of wins, Vegas thinks that the Tampa Bay Vipers will win 7.5 games over-under. They just lost Antonio Callaway for the season. He's on injury reserve. They have Aaron Murray, the quarterback who played for the Atlanta Myths, legends.
Still holding on to that.
Yeah, still holding on to Myths.
And I thought I was petty.
I get real petty. But 7.5, that's high, because the reason why I say it's very high, I'm not talking about smoking the cannabis, talking about over unders here, ladies and gentlemen. So don't snitch on that, and don't report us to the XFL. Say, oh, you got a podcast here selling weed about the XFL. 7.5. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, 10 games is how long the regular season is. 10. 7.5. So you're telling me that if you go over, you're winning 8 games. If we're doing 7.5 over and unders for the Tampa Bay Vipers, baby, I gotta take the under there. I just don't see them even reaching 7 wins this year. Maybe that's my being a little biased towards the XFL, or is just me just not believing in that quarterback system right now. And Mark Trestman is a good head coach. 7.5 is, if I'm betting this, I'm not touching it, bro. I'm not touching it. What about you?
Myself, I gotta be perfectly honest. I think that the top 4 at the end of the day, no discernible order, is going to be DC Defenders, DC Defenders, DC Defenders, and DC Defenders. Because honestly, I'd be a complete liar if I said that I know everything about every team. I really don't. I've only been paying attention to the DC Defenders. Cardell Jones, I think, is going to be a big deal with Rashard Ross. I think that Ross is incredibly underrated. He deserves an NFL spot. He didn't get it, but now he's got a spot in DC. Happy to have him back as a former Redskin. He played quite well for us. He had a 104-yard touchdown return. He also managed to get a block punt for a touchdown. So this guy can play, and I think that with Cardell Jones in the right offensive system, with Pep Hamilton properly coaching him, I think they're going to be quite explosive. I think that the whole league is rather sleeping on them, or at the very least Caesar's Palace is. For me, that's about as much as I know. I think defense-wise, looks like we're going to be all right, but who knows? Under these new rules, this could completely change the entire rhythm of how teams play. Arena Football League is quite different than NFL because of how the rule is. You'd have to have linebackers stay in a specific box area. So things are definitely going to be different in the XFL, which completely changes my perspective of how to predict things. The only way I think that I'm going to properly be able to, come up with an amalgamation of what's going to happen is when I actually see them play after game 1. Once I can go through and look at all the highlights, I see what they've got, I'll be able to have more answers for you. But for right now, my top 4 are DC Defenders, DC Defenders, DC Defenders, and DC Defenders.
Who are the 5 best rappers of all time? Think about it. Dylon, and Dylon. Because I spit hot fire.
The over-under what we're on right now, the overall segment, ladies and gentlemen. Tampa Bay is number 1 at 7.5 games, winner or win above or under. I think that's too high for Tampa. But if the playoffs started today via Vegas, Tampa Bay, Washington, Dallas, and Houston are the 4 teams representing the first playoffs of the XFL. Dallas over-under is at 6, same as Houston at 6. So that could be both pushes right there, both at 6 and 4. And, of course, the bottom dweller teams, L.A., New York, St. Louis, and Seattle are all at 4 wins. And that's very well can be pushed. But I'm going to tell you right now, my prediction is very, 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 very straight to the point. I believe that the West is going to be the best division, but the champions coming out of the East in the XFL. But in over-unders, let me give it back to you, ladies and gentlemen. Tampa Bay at 7.5, Dallas and Houston at 6, DC at 5.5, LA, New York, St. Louis, and Seattle at 4. Go to Caesar Entertainment or Caesar's Palace to place your bets for win totals. If I was a betting man, I would say under on Tampa Bay, push for Dallas, push for Houston, over for DC, over for LA, over for New York, and push for St. Louis and Seattle. That's just me just saying what I think. You don't have to bet on it. Don't say, "Oh, J-Dash told me to do this. Now I'm broke." Well, you're the person that's but
one thing I will say, when it comes to the Dallas Renegades, I'm kind of surprised that they're as high up as they are, because Landry Jones does have that lingering injury, which could affect his play. He's supposed to be there for the season opener, but you'd think that a question mark like that would actually hurt them. But I will say, having Lance Dunbar, not too shabby. Not too shabby. I think he's actually going to be all right for them.
I think Dallas, they may lose one game. They may lose week 1 or week 2 because of the absence of Landry Jones. But if he does play, it may not affect him, in my opinion. I do think Dallas is going to have one of the most explosive offenses in the league as this point. So
I'm going to be keeping my eye on Connor Cook as well.
For the Houston Roughnecks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually always felt that he could be decent, but I never saw enough of him. And, of course, he was stuck behind Derek Carr, if I recall correctly.
Correct. With that, ladies and gentlemen, after this break, we will be coming back with our XFL Unhinged Podcast Power Rankings, presented by XFLNewsroom.com. This is our Power Rankings coming up next. Yeah, this is your boy Jay Dash. Second part of the show. Of course, as you know, my partner in crime here, his power rankings only consist of 4 teams, and it's defenders, 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 and defenders. That's what you like to call one big roster.
It's just clone teams that play against each other half the season. Cardell Jones goes down with an injury. Hopefully it doesn't happen to Cardell Jones number 2.
It's like having Madden versus Madden, just have the way at home jerseys. So, the power rankings here, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be unique, as what Carlos said in the last segment. You don't know what these teams are until they start playing. So, my power rankings don't mean shit in week 2 when, I don't know, maybe the bottom 4 teams win all their games and the top 4 teams lose all their games. Possibly. That's what power rankings are doing. And power rankings are, there's stuff to excite, discussion about a league. But in professional sports leagues, no matter what professional sport league you're into, there's one thing that they have that colleges don't have, or college leagues don't have, and that is playoffs. You don't need to be voted into something to make a tournament. You earn your way into the tournament. But to start off the power rankings of the preseason power rankings for the Unhinged podcast, coming in at number 8 is the St. Louis Battlehawks. There's really no question about the St. Louis Battlehawks. Do believe they will have one of the best secondaries in the league. Jordan Tamu just got picked as the starting quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks. The only reason why I have them at 8 right now is because they go on the road the first 2 weeks at Dallas and at Houston. It's pretty much, hey, show me. You may go up in the rankings. But I do believe St. Louis will have a great home crowd. I do think St. Louis is going to be a 4 to 5 win team this year. So right now, someone has to start eighth. I really don't want to tick you guys off.
I hear the boos already.
Oh yeah, St. Louis fans are becoming those type of fans, really.
And unsubscribed.
Yep, that happens. We lose it all the time. Number 7 is the Seattle Dragons, where a lot of podcasts, especially on our website at xflnewsroom.com, have the Dragons as dead last. The reason why I don't have the Dragons at dead last is because a certain quarterback that I really do like, and that is Brandon Silvers. I do believe he is a very underrated quarterback in the XFL. The only reason why they're at 7 is because St. Louis is at 8, and I believe the teams above them are a little bit better. But yes, you do have people who do predict the league like they think they know everything, and they say, well, Seattle has the worst quarterback, Seattle has the worst defense, Seattle has the worst offense. You believe that? Okay, I think quarterbacks are going to be the main reason you win championships in any league, and I do believe that Seattle has a chance or has a diamond in the rough in Brandon Silvers, who I think will keep them in playoff contention all the way to the final week of the season. But to start the preseason rankings, I got them at number 7. Number 6 coming in my power rankings is the team from my state, the Tampa Bay Vipers. They were higher on the power rankings. They were at 3 for me, but with the loss of Antonio Callaway, they dropped down to number 6. Still questioning their quarterback, Aaron Murray, but I do see a quarterback Quentin Flowers playing a lot more, having a lot more game time, and of course, I love that big time running back they have, Devon Smith and Jacques Patrick. I do believe they're going to have a very good running game in Tampa. Number 5, we'll head out to the west coast of Los Angeles. I have no idea what's going on in L.A. They traded away Luis Perez to the New York Guardians. But I do know Sean Oakman's over there. They have a very, very, I do believe LA is going to be one of the best defenses in the league. On the offense, they have Joe Johnson, who played many games in the DC, the Redskins.
Yes, he did.
But LA is going to be that team in the West that, just like Seattle, they're going to battle for maybe the wild card or the last playoff spot in the West and be that 5-5 team that may have some tiebreakers over certain teams. Number 4 is the team I think will be a very good chance of winning the Eastern Conference. That is the New York Guardians. I don't think people realize that Matt McGloin is a starting quarterback for the Guardians, but you don't trade for Luis Perez if you're not 100% sold on your quarterbacks. So I do believe there is a big question mark in that quarterback room for the New York Dragons, but I do think the New York Dragons will be a very tough team to push around in the Eastern Conference or the Eastern Division. I got the.
Yeah, you said New York Dragons, New York Guardians.
I said the Dragons. Man,
yeah, I heard Dragons.
New York Dragons, man, I missed the Arena Football League. Aaron Garcia up in here.
Nice reference.
Go back to. Go to number 3 on the power rankings, the Houston Roughnecks. I'm only doing this because I do love Connor Cook, and I love the head coach down there. Yes, I know P.J. Walker is going to be the starting quarterback. Houston Roughnecks are going to be a running gun. Spread them out. We're going to throw the ball over the field. They're not going to be a team that's going to run the ball a lot. They're going to be a very explosive offense. And be very competitive. Number 2 is the Dallas Renegades. It's Dallas.
Boo, boo,
Bob Stoops, Landry Jones, Eric Dungy. They're loaded this year. And I think Dallas will be in the top tier of the XFL for a majority of the season. And of course, number 1, little fandom here. The Washington.
You sure this isn't my list?
No, this is mine. This is my list. The Washington Defenders are number 1. Cardell Jones, of course. Ross, excuse me. Why I say Moss for?
Randy Moss for Shard Ross.
I do think that the Washington Defenders have the best running back core in the XFL. And of course, I do believe that Audi Field is going to be a very hostile environment for opponents going into there starting next week when Seattle comes into town. So, to recap my power rankings for preseason, remember these can change instantly.
And they
because
probably will.
And they probably will, because we honestly are just guessing on how these teams are, ladies and gentlemen. So number 8 is St. Louis. Number 7 is Seattle. Number 6 is Tampa Bay. Number 5 is Los Angeles. Number 4 is the New York Dragons. Woo woo! New York Giants. Number 3 is the Houston Roughnecks. Number 2 is the Dallas Renegades. And number 1 is the Washington Defenders. That is the Week 1 power rankings. But talking about the number 6 team in the league, the Tampa Bay Vipers, my power ranking, I got a chance to interview Jake Foley, who is the runner and operator of Ready to Strike Viper Nation podcast, which is a new podcast, a part of the XFLnewsroom.com family. Here is our 10-minute conversation about what he thinks the Vipers will do this season and hopefully maybe improve their power rankings in the XFL.
Time to cross the streams.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Unhinged Podcast. Of course, you know who I am. I am J Dash, the boy, the most hated personality in the XFL. Alongside Ready to Strike Viper Nation, Jake Foley. Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about some XFL.
Well, that's what we do here on the Unhinged Podcast, especially in the XFL Newsroom family. Of course, we know, ladies and gentlemen, on this particular show, we've been talking about, all the 8 teams around the league. This one, of course, is he lives in Fort Myers. He lives on the other side of the state than I do. I live up in Jacksonville, but I was really not into the Viper type of fans base area. Technically, if you look at the XFL's map, they show you this is where you live. This is who you should pull for. But I don't. But I know you, sir, are a Vipers fanatic. And you're in a couple of sentences, or maybe in the paragraph, or maybe in a couple of minutes. What should fans who are not Viper fans or who are questioning who to pull for should pick the Vipers as their XFL team?
Now, you need to understand what this roster is made of. There's many different types of football. There's fast football. There's a pro style where you go slower. The Vipers have 14 players that played college in South Florida. Now, people from South Florida know that South Florida produces the best athletes, the most athletic. These are the players that you need on a team like the XFL that's going to have new rules, and it's going to need to be an innovative offense that can be changed around athleticism. And that's what we have. And that's what people need to understand. If you want to watch an exciting, a fast, electrifying offense led by Aaron Murray, not to mention, we do have the best coach in the league. And my favorite part of the whole thing is the hate coming from Mark Trestman. The hate of how he performed when he played for the he coached for the Chicago Bears. But why aren't we talking about all those great years in the CFL? Or maybe we shouldn't be talking about any of it, because this is a whole different league. This is the first league where you start off with a coach who is also the general manager. So you do not go off their coaching abilities. You go off of their mindset and their football mind, because they have to see a vision for a team they want and then create it around it. And that's exactly what Mark Trestman has done with this Tampa Bay Vipers team. He has built around a consistent offense that has heavy running up the middle, led by Devion Smith from Michigan and Jaquez Patrick from FSU. Everybody from South Florida knows Jaquez Patrick and what he was doing at FSU. And then on top of that, we lost Antonio Callaway, which would have easily brought us to the championship. But we do have a lot of resources left. We have Shantavius Jones, an absolute animal, ready to step in and take over for the big workload that he is now due. We have a lot of other guys. Low-key, we have a good defense led by a very solid linebacker group. Emmanuel Beal, for those that are big college football fans, was an absolute animal at Oklahoma. This guy ran through offensive lines and destroyed running backs. And I think he's going to bring that same energy and passionate football style and just go right through the offensive lines. On top of that, we have a very good and also mysterious defensive back group. We have DeMontre Hurst, who played for Oklahoma, was a very impressive cornerback in college. Jalen Collins, who should still be in the NFL if it wasn't for his off-field issues that got him suspended for a whole season from the NFL. And then you also have a guy named Rennell Hall. This is another South Florida. It all comes down to the South Florida mindset. He played wide receiver at UCF. He was a very talented wide receiver. And now he is a new hybrid of wide receivers being turned into quarterbacks. I think it's going to work out well. I think we're going to have a very good defense behind this high-powered offense. And on top of that, our kicker's Andrew Franks, another South Florida legend, kicker for Miami. But with all that being said, I think this team is being underrated. I do believe you are right when we were talking before about the over-under for the team wins should not be 7.5. All the teams should be like 4.5 right in the middle and then just determine because we don't know. But the Tampa Bay Vipers have the best coach in the XFL, and I believe he has the exact team around him that he needs to be successful.
Some fighting words about having your team having the best positions and best players on, well, not really on, but in the XFL. But some of the people out there that don't know what Tampa, well, he's getting the narrative push about South Florida. And the South Florida is majority of your NFL players. It's majority of your recruits that go into college to some of the major universities. It's universities like Oklahoma, Ohio State, USC, Texas A&M, Florida State, Georgia. They all go down to the Tampa area. They all go down to Orlando. They all go down to Miami, Fort Myers, and Jacksonville to go look for players. The state of Florida, there's a phrase for people who live down in the state of Florida, is football is king. And that's what you do. Jake is right. That is the ultimate reason why players come out of the state of Florida. We're best at it. That's our sport.
And
mainly, we're good in all sports, but football for most.
And on top of that, I was wondering how big of a factor this was going to be. So I actually DM'd the defensive back coach, William Fields, who came with Tressman from the Canadian Football League. And he told me basically that everything is gelling together. This is way more than, the AAF was like a tryout team. He's saying this is a family. Tressman has developed a family because, like I said, 14 of these guys played football in South Florida. On top of that, at least I believe, I forgot to write down the number, but I think it was 21 of them went into high school in South Florida. Tressman knew what he was doing with this roster, and he has exactly what he needs. And I think it's exactly what this XFL needs, especially if teams go out there with their offense and things fail. When game plans fail, athleticism steps up. And I think that's why the Tampa Bay Vipers are really going to surprise a lot of teams in the XFL.
Well, as like you mentioned, Vegas has Vegas has the Tampa Bay Vipers at 7.5 wins on the 2020 season, which is, if you're a betting man out there, ladies and gentlemen, or women, whatever, you will not touch 7.5, especially on the 10-game season, because you have no idea.
Ridiculous.
That's a high number. But what are the key things that you look for into a team like the Tampa Bay Vipers? Well, you look at the single Carlos. And, yeah, everyone knows Aaron Murray, and everyone still remembers the bad taste of Aaron Murray left in Atlanta in the AAF. But a guy you need to watch out for, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, for the Tampa Bay Vipers is a household name in Tampa. He used to play for South Florida. No, I'm not talking about B.J. Daniels. He's in Seattle, but that would have been great if he was in Tampa. Talk about Quentin Flowers. That is a mobile. He has a good arm. Willie Taggart. had him. Unfortunately, Willie Taggart had him in South Florida, which was the launching point of South Florida's program before Taggart went to Oregon, then went on to go to FSU and destroy my alma mater. But besides from that, as you said, Mark Trestman is what you say is the best head coach in the XFL, and that's your opinion, and that's fans' opinion. That's what we need in the XFL. From other podcasts out there to the league, there's a lot of people that sugarcoat things about certain teams, certain organizations, and certain videos and certain shows. There has to be some backlash, and there has to be some arguments because this is a new league. We need to have rivalries. But one final question for you, sir. In the Eastern Conference, you got the Defenders in New York and the St. Louis Battlehawks. Who do you think Tampa Bay's natural rival would be in the XFL?
Well, I see Tampa as a high-powered, want-to-watch team only because people are most people are still expecting this to be some sort of show. They're not understanding the talent in the XFL. So when they actually see the talent, they're going to realize how strong the Vipers are as a team. And so the natural rival is probably going to be the DC Defenders because they have a decent team around them. I think Cardell Jones is a fraud. I think most people that actually watch football film know why he's not in the NFL. I'm not sure why he has much star power for the DC Defenders. I think Tyree Jackson's going to take over. But I think we go head-to-head on them because it's way more of a personnel, way more of a skill thing. The St. Louis Battlehawks, I love Jordan Ta'amu. I want to see him work out. I mean, that could be a rivalry just because Aaron Murray from Georgia, Ta'amu from Ole Miss, if you want to really make a stretch. But I don't see the Battlehawks as being too good of a team. I mean, the coach is Jonathan Hayes, who has been a tight ends coach for 12 years. So I just don't see that guy really being the one who's going to be able to put a whole team together. So I say it's against the Defenders. They might be the only team that gives us a run to come out of our division, but obviously we're coming out on top, and the Vipers are going to be winning the championship this year.
I love your positivity, man. I really do, and that's what we need in the XFL, and especially here at XFLnewsroom.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find him at RTSV Viper Nation, or luckily at Ready to Strike Viper Nation on Twitter at JFoSports. Or you can just follow him at XFLnewsroom.com, where we got podcasts by American Noise, Tron Hawkins at the XFL Podcast, and, of course, myself with Carlos with the Unhinged Podcast. We are the XFL Newsroom family, and I'd like to welcome you to the family, and hopefully we can, have these little talks throughout the season, and we'll break down some games and talk about some betting odds for the 2023.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unhinged Podcast. It's your boy, Jay Dash. It's closing out the show here, but hey, this is what you like to call preseason power rankings / predictions. And I'm going to do what we do best. XFL predictions. What do we think? Who are our division champions? Who we think are going to be the XFL champions? Who I think is going to be the MVP, or Carlos is going to be the MVP. So,
I always am.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, okay. Do we need Brock Lesnar to come in here to throw you out of the ring, Mr. MVP?
They hate us because they ain't us.
Oh, God, I really hate that phrase.
Yeah, bringing that back. Thanks, James Franco.
So,
anyway.
division champions. Who wins the division for you, sir, for the Eastern Conference or Eastern Division?
All right, well, obviously, I think it's going to be DC. But if it's not going to be DC, I guess the only obvious choice would probably be the New York Guardians. They would have to be number 2 because if looking at I'm going off your rankings here, Dallas, Houston, clearly West Coast. Washington and New York, 1 and 4, clearly East Coast. Kind of got to go with the Guardians, but if not the dark horse, it's got to be the Wildcats. If they can get the receiver back healthy, maybe they got a shot at continuing, but from what I hear, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Somebody's going to have to step up. So most likely, Washington Defenders, second choice Guardians, wild card, the Vipers. But when it comes to the West Coast, it's either Dallas or Houston. Seems pretty easy to me. It seems pretty simplified. It's got to be one or the other. But The Dragons, I don't know why. I feel like there's something there. Just got a feeling. I've got a feeling that the Seattle Dragons will be able to make up for the lack of talent through sheer passion, because you know that those fans in Seattle can get anybody to do anything. Like, they add that little extra 12th man touch. So who knows? Maybe the Dragons could come in and steal it all. But yeah, most likely East Coast Defenders, West Coast Renegades. I'm gonna go with that.
Okay, Renegades, Defenders. Well, you might be absolutely right, but then again, you might be absolutely wrong. But we're not experts here. My East Coast predictions are, like what you said, the three teams, in my opinion, are going to be either the Vipers, the Guardians, or the Defenders that will win the division. You got a lot of key games later in the year that are going to be decisive to who's going to win the East, in my opinion. And I do believe the divisions will be set. Division will actually be settled in either week 9 or, of course, week 8 and 9. I think will determine the divisions between the three teams, between the Tampa Bay Vipers, the New York Dragons, and the Washington Defenders. And I would say that the Eastern Division champion will be the Washington Defenders, with the Tampa Bay Vipers coming in as the fourth seed or the wild card to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference is a logjam, because I do believe the Western Conference is going to have the toughest division in sports. I'm not in sports, but in the XFL. I'm almost to a point where we're going to have two teams in the Western Conference that have 6 wins, and we're going to have two teams that are going to have 5 wins. I really do believe that's going to be the Western, or not Eastern, the Western Conference, not the Eastern Conference. I do think the Dallas Renegades, may start off slow because of the injury to Landry Jones, but finish off the season strong and win the division. And unfortunately, I know I may get a little hatred for the people out west in Los Angeles, but I think the Houston Roughnecks will be the second team to make the postseason in the West. So in the West, Dallas and Houston. In the East, Washington and Tampa Bay. XFL, when you get into playoffs, there's one thing that needs to be won, and that is the XFL Championship. Who wins the 2020 XFL title, Carlos?
Man, I don't even know where to begin on that. Somehow, because football is just cursed around here in DC, I would imagine there's a decent chance that the football gods would be cruel again and kick a Washington team out of the playoffs right away. So I don't know. I feel so biased about this right now. Like, from my point of view, it's kind of hard to take it seriously. But just to play devil's advocate, I'll say Guardians. Let's just kind of throw that in there. Maybe Guardians. Like, I don't know why. New York always seems to have good luck with that. But again, this is just a prediction. I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be one. If I did, I'd be a full-on liar. But yeah, playing devil's advocate, taking DC Defenders to the side, I guess I got to go with Guardians.
So you have the Guardians making the playoffs as a wild card team and knocking off the Defenders in the first round and winning the championship. God, I love those wild card teams. I'm going to have to go with the Vegas favorite. Dallas Renegades are at plus 300 to win the title. I do think that Dallas has the better team. Don't think they might. Honestly, I'm to a point where I'll be satisfied if I see the Renegades versus Washington in the XFL Championship game. But
That would be more awesome.
That'll be a homage to their actual rivalry between the two cities. But will actually be very heartbreaking for you Redskin fans and you hardcore DC fans, as if the Defenders hosted the XFL Championship game and Dallas goes into DC and gets the W. That'd be heartbreaking, but it'd be joyous. It'd be celebration if it was vice versa. I think the Renegades, in my opinion, even with Landry Jones hurt, they got a very good quarterback in Eric Dungy that no one talks about, but I watched him play a couple of years with the Syracuse Orangemen in the ACC. Very mobile. He has very good skill as a quarterback, and I think he is a he'll be good for a couple games. He may not need him from all 10. He'll be good for a couple of games. So I like the Renegades to be the XFL champions of 2020.
How about MVP? Got any calls for that?
MVP is going to be unique here. Usually the MVP is for the team that has the best record or who's going to win the championship or who is, the icon of the league. My MVP is unique. I talked about him before in the show, and people are like, really? My MVP is going to be a player that no one's talking about. No one's giving him respect, but he is the head man of a team, and this team will be in playoff contention at the end of the year, but will not. I'm not going to say will not, but he's going to put up some impressive numbers that keep his team in the fold. But like some MVPs, they just don't get a chance to compete for a championship like Lamar Jackson. My MVP will go to quarterback Brandon Silvers of the Seattle Dragons. I think he has all the tools to be a excellent quarterback who's being overlooked by a lot of people in the XFL. But I like his mechanics. I love his playing style. And I think he will lead Seattle to a playoff push. Won't be surprised if they make the playoffs. But I'm definitely not seeing them as the worst team in the league, what Vegas thinks they are. So, MVP, Brandon Silvers, quarterback, Seattle Dragons.
And for me, I think it's pretty clear. I think it's going to be Rashad Ross. That guy just killed it. Absolutely killed it in the AAF. 52 targets, 36 catches, 583 yards, and 7 touchdowns in just 8 weeks. That's pretty damn impressive. Like, I think that he's just going to light it up. He's just going to be all about speed. He's going to kill it out there. I think that's my number one choice.
Oh, that's unique. That's strange. We're supposed to be both Defender fans here, and we have a very spread out predictions of the season. You have the Guardians winning the XFL title. I have the Defenders or Renegades winning the XFL Championship. I have Brandon Silver's MVP. You have Rashad Ross's MVP. Unique. But then again, come week 5 weeks from now, we may be like, Jesus Christ, Seattle hasn't won a game, and the Dragons are still looking for a starting quarterback. That's how seasons are, because there wasn't an XFL season last year. It's not like the NFL where there's 100 years before this year season's coming up. So you know where you're looking at, and you can tell by history what your team's going to do. But speaking of history, we did a contest on XFL Unhinged podcast, and we do have a winner for 2 tickets to the game of your choosing for any game of the XFL season. It doesn't have to be week 1. It could be week 2, week 3, whatever. Caden at NEDAC1776. I think that's NEDAC1776. Reach out to us, DM us for your information, what games you want to go to. It's not going to be, luxury suites with all the fixings. This will be $2 $20 tickets to the game of your choosing. Any team will be good. Just let me know, and we get you set up for you to go enjoy some XFL football this season.
Congratulations, Caden. Thanks for playing the game. You're a winner. Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations.
And I meant that.
That's classic. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, coming up next week, we'll be doing holy crap, can I really say it? Next week, we'll be breaking down games. Our predictions of week 1. Holy shit. It is here. Finally. 2 years has flown by. Holy crap. It's like a blink of an eye and it's here.
Hey, can't forget too. Super Bowl's coming up this week.
It's the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we'll talk a little bit about it, but how could you not? I mean, let's be real here.
It's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest championship of the sport. So
I think professionally speaking, it was the only. Well, then again, there's Canadian football. I forget what I was about to say. It was the only championship, but there are others.
yeah, the Grey Cup. Yeah,
But it's the golden goose. It's the golden god. It's the one that you want more than any other.
Correct. It is the game. It is what you want to win. It is what everybody wants to play for. Even the players here in the XFL want to play for it. But
maybe one day down the road, the XFL could be on that level. You never know. Maybe this is going to take off like wildfire. It could happen.
It could happen. You can't say never, but please, for help to God, it doesn't become the other league. But to not end on a sour note, but on a positive note, we are under 2 weeks to kick off of the XFL season. I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast. I know it's pretty lengthy. Hope you enjoyed the interview and our tribute to Kobe Bryant. No further ado, I'm J Dash as Carlos. We see you next week when we start breaking down some XFL games. The season's finally here, people. Talk to you guys later.
Hasta luego, y'all. See you on the other side.